Folks, I'll be sharing my techniques and this technology at these upcoming spaces. Sure hope to meet you there.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the futures in 5, only it's after the close. And so what we are taking a look is a bounce pass that we really have been fairly on the mark with. We know that this was going to take place in general, and of course no is the word we assumed it would. This is the big number it's got to get up and stay up over, and that number is 2714.50. This morning I tweeted out, hey listen, we gotta watch this area, there are sellers here. Well, at the first pass, and we are looking at 6-hour candlesticks here, the first pass it moved right up into new highs and then faded. So now we've got resistance action that really did become engaged right around this area, just a little shy of that, and now we're pulling back into a space that really could easily come back into this old congestion zone. This is the region around 2692 we want to look for. That would be a fairly good place for buyers to get involved if they're trying to climb this wall. I really think traders were sort of working through this volume profile event right here, and they're done. And so now the next step is, how well can it hold a fade? I'm not really sure. But we can expect that this press forward, look at all these candlesticks. Now my suspicion is that these upward candlesticks really got driven by traders selling to engage and then buying to cover, because they kept feeling, myself included, I kept feeling that the top edges were going to give us some downside rotation, and in the end that happened yesterday. We held these levels. This, you can see how many times we hit this zone. It was just crazy. So I expect this to come back to this area, whether it's tonight or tomorrow. That was a long time on that one, forgive me. All right, same sort of thing here. Take a look at this. 70.34 came up into the space. Very nice rejection. And I have that on a multiple, so I'm going to reverse it. So what are we looking at? Well, we've got this congestion point here, and then this one down here. So really, in my mind, taking a look at price action tools coming into this region ought to be fairly important. That's 68.74. We feel pretty sure we might be able to hold our 67.86 to 67.87 moving into the space, but if the buyers can't hold this, or they hold it and the bounce is shallow, this is a negative trend, and so we could resume our downward formation. Very, very tentative here, lots of noise. You can see clearly that this area, elevator shaft down, this area, elevator shaft down, retrace of that elevator, and then retrace of that elevator, right? We take the escalator up, the elevator down, and that's exactly what's happened here. So we should see a pretty good fade. Listen, putting a limit order long here, not a great idea, because this is still very bearish, and there's lots of opportunities for things to sell further to the south. So you just want to be pretty cautious in your approach, and of course use much tighter time frames than the one I'm looking at right here. This is great place. Look at this resistance zone right there at 25,173. I did have this area in the space, and so we're going to look at it for the breach. If it breaches, we're going to move to the edge, but as you can see, this actually never did fill in, and this filled in both of them. So this gave us the retracement of this wave and this wave. The rest of the downside pressure here is potentially what we have on the upside. So there's 25,364, potentially the next upside space, but we really have got quite a few things in the way. First thing, 24,960, and then again, somewhere around 24,770, 800, something like that. So that's what we're looking at. Potential fades, very likely flat adaptive moving average, but you can see buyers trying to come in. It's a coin toss, really, what's going on. This one totally fell out of bed. Really, you can see all the angles that show the failed retests here, or trigger events from these alert zones, and you can see them breaking down. Absolutely beautiful. We talked about, I want to show you this. I know this is going to take longer. So here is this motion. It was from 66, let's just sort of use it here, 66.12 to 67.90, right? So 67.90, and then we'll say this is our 66.12, 66.20, something like that. Okay, so that gives us $2 and let's round it up. We say $2.70. We'll round it down. Okay, so this, if it's a measured move, it's going to break down into partitions, and the first thing I like to look at is a 50% range between this high and this low. That number is around at about 175. That puts it down at 64.40. We're just shy of that level. I'll put an alert there, see if it comes down. What we've got is still quite a bit of negative traction. We'll see what happens here as it moves through deeper support hunts. That's going to be a big thing for this chart to look at. So far, it really has broken down fairly dramatically, and it can come into some very, very deep price spaces. Here's the last one. Looking at gold, we did talk about gold finding a lot of sellers. Take a look. I wrote this on the 29th. I said, hey, listen, if we lose 1230, we're going to bring a lot more sellers into the space. And here we are coming down into a key support zone near 1212 to 1214. That could be a fairly good buy zone here in the space, but, you know, we'll see what happens from there. My thought is that buyers are going to try and come into this space and hold it, just not sure how many of them can come in and stabilize that motion. We'll be looking for that. In general, bounces going to be fades until we stop heading lower.